ancestors highlighting their creativity, complexity, and ingenuity. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries in recent years emerged from Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, where newly uncovered cave painting may be the oldest known example of visual storytelling. This hunting scene featuring human-like figures and native animals offers far more than just aesthetic value. It suggests that early humans had already developed a sophisticated understanding of narrative and symbolism, as well as a deep connection to the natural world. The figures in the artwork appear not merely as hunters, but as characters in a drama, revealing an early grasp of plot, emotion, and perhaps even myth. Such complexity suggests a cognitive leap forward, blurring the lines between survival-driven expression and artistic aspiration. These revelations are not confined to a single region. Across the globe, prehistoric cave art continues to yield insights into how early humans thought, worshipped, organized society, and viewed their place within nature. In Bulgaria, the Mura Cave stands as a striking example of such insight, with its walls adorned by vivid depictions of deer, goats, and long-extinct species, like the woolly rhinoceros. Rendered in red, black, and white pigments, these animals were not merely sketched. They were brought to life with careful strokes, proportions, and movement. These images serve as both artistic achievements and historical documents, illustrating the animals that shared the Ice Age world with early humans, as well as the symbolic weight these creatures likely carried in their spiritual or ritual lives. The aesthetic value of the artwork is matched by its anthropological significance, revealing how early humans interacted with their environment, what they feared, what they revered, and how they may have attempted to control or honor those forces through the medium of art. In Spain, a particularly revolutionary discovery has challenged long-held beliefs about the cognitive abilities of Neanderthals. In caves such as La Parraga, paintings dated to more than 64,000 years ago suggest that Neanderthals, once regarded as incapable of abstract thought, engaged in symbolic art-making long before Homo sapiens arrived in Europe. These simple yet deliberate shapes, marks, and figures reveal a mind capable of abstract reasoning and cultural transmission, redefining our understanding of our ancient cousins and forcing a reevaluation of the evolutionary tree of intelligence and creativity. Further west in France, the renowned Chauvet Cave, sometimes referred to in translation alongside Las, contains dynamic portrayals of Ice Age animals that seem to pulse with movement and energy. These animals, lions, mammoths, horses, were not just drawn. They were animated with multiple limbs in varying positions to suggest motion, as if the artists were attempting to create an early form of animation. The sophistication of these depictions suggests not only artistic talent, but a spiritual reverence for the creatures shown, possibly reflecting the role of these animals in rituals or cosmological beliefs. Similarly, in the Cave of Hands in Argentina, we find 9,300-year-old handprints left by blowing pigment over outstretched fingers to create a negative space, one of the oldest known forms of stencil art. These prints, often accompanied by hunting scenes, reveal the communal and symbolic purpose behind the artwork. They were likely not individual expressions, but collective ones, statement of presence, belonging, and shared identity. They may have served to mark territory, signal group cohesion, or invoke spiritual protection. The technique itself suggests a deep understanding of artistic method and a desire to leave something permanent in a transitory world. In India, the Bhimbetka rock shelters provide an extensive visual timeline of humanity's artistic evolution stretching over tens of thousands of years. These paintings offer a narrative that spans generations, from early depictions of animals and hunting scenes to more abstract symbols and geometrical patterns. The evolution of style and subject matter reveals how art mirrored the development of cognition, spirituality, and community. The shelters themselves appear to have been used for more than just living. They were centers for storytelling, rituals, education, and social gathering, with the art functioning as a key medium of cultural transmission. In Brazil, Serra de Capivar National Park, another treasure trove of prehistoric imagery, emerges in the form of more than 30,000 rock paintings, some of which date back nearly 20,000 years. These paintings do more than portray daily life. They hint at celestial, understanding, and philosophical contemplation. One remarkable image shows a figure, seemingly gazing at the stars, suggesting an early interest in astronomy and a spiritual connection to the cosmos. The painted stories stretch across time, depicting not just hunts and family gatherings, but relationships with the skies, the seasons, and unseen forces. Portable art adds another layer of complexity to this ancient narrative. Engraved stones discovered in the Nildri Hills and other remote regions are small, transportable, and marked with intricate carvings. These artifacts reflect how symbolism was not confined to cave walls or fixed spaces, but was part of a mobile cultural toolkit that moved with nomadic peoples. The presence of similar motifs across vast geographic distances suggests a shared symbolic language or belief system that transcended local communities, hinting at ancient networks of trade, communication, or mutual understanding. These mobile forms of art allowed ideas to travel, providing cohesion among dispersed groups and reinforcing the interconnectedness of early human societies. Efforts to preserve and protect these cultural treasures have grown more urgent as climate change, tourism, and vandalism threaten their fragile existence. In France's Chauvet Cave, for instance, access is now heavily restricted, with a detailed replica created for educational purposes and prevent the deterioration of the original 14,000-year-old paintings. These depictions of ibex, bison, and other animals are celebrated not just for their beauty, but for the technical mastery and spiritual insight they reveal. The artist's understanding of movement, perspective, and emotion is astonishing, providing a window into the soul of a long-lost world. Similarly, Spain's El Castillo Cave features red discs and stenciled handprints dating back more than 40,000 years. These images, primitive yet powerful, echo across millennia, reminding us that the drive to create and communicate has been an intrinsic part of human existence from the beginning. Taken together, these discoveries illuminate the rich tapestry of prehistoric life, showing how early humans were not merely survivors but thinkers, dreamers, and visionaries. The intricate hunting scenes, the symbolic handprints, the dynamic portrayals of animals. All these forms of expression serve as timeless testaments to the resilience, creativity, and interconnectedness of our ancestors. As researchers continue to uncover new sites and decode their meanings, the story of human history becomes ever more complex and deeply fascinating. These ancient works are not relics of a silent past. They are voices speaking across the ages. These works show us that art is not a modern luxury, but a fundamental element of what it means to be human. It transcends time and geography, binding us to a shared heritage that stretches far beyond recorded history. The cave walls, the engraved stones, the ancient pigments, they are not just archaeological data points. They are messages, stories, and reflections from the dawn of human consciousness, offering an eternal link between us and those who came before. As long as we continue to explore, preserve, and interpret them, these ancient creations will remain beacons of humanity's enduring spirit. These ancient works of art continue to shape and reshape our understanding of the people who made them, providing insight into not only their survival strategies and day-to-day lives, but also their inner worlds, their hopes, fears, beliefs, and dreams. Each new cave discovery is a reminder that the human drive to create and communicate spans continents, species, and epochs. It is as if prehistoric artists left a visual dialogue for future generations to interpret, a conversation carved into stone and pigment across millennia. Whether it is a scene of hunters chasing game across the walls of an Indonesian cave or a lone handprint etched high on a cliff face in Argentina, each image is a declaration. We were here, we thought, we felt, we believed. In this way, prehistoric art allows us to trace the emergence of symbolic mind, the shift from mere instinct to intentional meaning-making. These ancient artists were not simply decorating their surroundings. They were mapping out a world rich in meaning, where animals held spiritual power, where rituals connected communities, and where the mysteries of life and death were explored through visual storytelling. The development of such symbolic behavior marks a fundamental turning point in human evolution. This is not merely about art for art's sake. The act of creating images, of deliberately representing the unseen or the imagined, reflects a major leap in cognitive ability. It suggests the presence of language, abstract thinking, and complex social structures. When early humans chose to draw a bison not as it was, but as it moved or behaved, they were participating in a deeply human act, the shaping of perception into a shared cultural experience. These early expressions also reveal a fascinating intersection between the practical and the spiritual. In many cases, the locations of the art, deep within caves far from natural light, suggest that the act of creation itself was ritualistic, perhaps even sacred. Crawling deep into the earth to leave behind a painting of a deer or a shamanic figure may have been a rite of passage, a way to commune with spirits, ancestors, or forces beyond the visible world. Such spiritual dimensions are evident in the recurring motifs found across continents. Animals drawn with exaggerated features, handprints arranged in patterns, symbols repeated across walls. These are not random doodles, but deliberate choices suggesting shared beliefs or mythologies that bound early communities together. The spiritual importance of animals, in particular, is reflected in the sheer number of cave paintings that focus on megafauna: bison, mammoths, lions, horses, and others that dominated the Pleistocene landscape. These animals were not only hunted, but revered. They were central to the mythological and symbolic lives of prehistoric people, perhaps representing fertility, strength, danger, or transformation. Many anthropologists theorize that cave paintings serve as part of hunting magic, an effort to ensure a successful hunt by first capturing the animal spirit through art. This idea is supported by evidence from shamanistic cultures that persisted into more recent history, where rituals often included drawings, chants, and dances meant to mimic or invoke the behavior of animals. In these traditions, the line between artist and spiritual leader is blurred. The artist was not just an observer of the world, but an active participant in its unseen dimensions. Similar ideas may have governed the artistic practices of prehistoric humans. Some of the most striking images show half-human, half-animal figures, beings that straddle the boundaries between the physical and the metaphysical. These theanthropes, as they are called, may have represented shamans in a trance state, gods or spirits, or mythological creatures from oral traditions now lost to time. Their presence in cave art from Europe to Africa suggests a widespread spiritual worldview in which humans and animals were deeply interconnected not just ecologically but cosmologically. The repetition of certain symbols, dots, spirals, zigzag, and other abstract shapes, adds another layer to this mystery. Some researchers believe these may represent early attempts at writing or counting, possibly linked to lunar cycles, seasons, or ritual calendars. These abstract patterns, dots, zigzags, spirals, have been found in cave sites across multiple continents, and while their precise meanings remain speculative, they offer compelling evidence that early humans were already engaging in symbolic systems of communication that may predate formal language or writing. The repetition and placement of these symbols in deliberate sequences suggest intentional design and cognitive planning. Some archaeologists believe these markings could have been used to track celestial events like the phases of the moon or seasonal changes, crucial for hunting and gathering cycles. Others suggest they might represent totemic or clan symbols signifying tribal identity, social status, or the presence of particular shamanic figures. The use of geometric abstraction points to a complex understanding of visual language, where meaning can be conveyed through shapes and patterns rather than only through literal representations. This early flirtation with abstraction signals a cognitive flexibility that remains one of the hallmarks of human intelligence. As researchers apply modern technologies such as digital scanning, 3D imaging, and radiometric dating to these ancient sites, they are uncovering new layers of information that earlier generations of archaeologists could only guess at. For instance, ultraviolet and infrared imaging can now detect pigments invisible to the naked eye, revealing underlying sketches, corrections, or additional layers of artwork that may have been added over time. These technological breakthroughs are allowing us to reconstruct the creative process of ancient artists, giving us insights not just into what they painted, but how and why. We are beginning to understand that these works were not static monuments, but dynamic canvases, updated and revisited over generations, possibly functioning as evolving narratives that reflected changes in belief systems, environmental shifts, or intercultural interactions. In this way, caves became living archives of communal memory, places where stories were etched into stone and passed from one epoch to the next. Additionally, the spatial arrangement of cave art offers clues about its intended purpose and audience. Paintings placed at the entrance of caves may have been designed for broader communal viewing, possibly as part of initiation ceremonies or seasonal gatherings. In contrast, images located deep within the dark, narrow recesses of caves suggest exclusivity and sacredness. The act of crawling into tight, pitch-black spaces to create these artworks implies a ritualized experience, perhaps limited to certain individuals like shamans or elders. The sensory deprivation of the cave environment, echoes, darkness, the flickering light of fire, could have induced altered states of consciousness, enhancing the spiritual experience and heightening the symbolic power of the art. The walls of these subterranean cathedrals thus became not only canvases but thresholds, portals between the physical and metaphysical worlds. Furthermore, recent discoveries are helping to challenge traditional narratives about who created this art. For a long time, it was assumed that prehistoric artists were mostly adult males, hunters or shamans, who depicted their exploits or religious visions. However, studies analyzing hand stencils and fingerprint sizes now suggest that women and even children played an active role in creating cave art. In fact, some of the most prominent and skillful handprints belong to adolescent females, raising the possibility that art was a communal activity rather than a specialized or hierarchical one. This revelation reshapes our understanding of prehistoric societies, suggesting they may have been more inclusive and cooperative than previously thought. Art may have served as a means of social bonding, education, and cultural continuity, involving members of all ages and genders in the collective task of preserving their worldview. Another groundbreaking area of research concerns the musical and acoustic properties of cave spaces. Studies have shown that many prehistoric paintings are located in parts of caves with unusual acoustic resonance. When researchers played sounds or rhythms in these chambers, they discovered that certain frequencies reverberated in ways that align with the placement of the art. This correlation has led to the theory that early humans selected these locations not only for visual expression, but for auditory effect. These caves may have functioned as prehistoric theaters or sanctuaries, where sound and image worked in harmony to create immersive ritual experiences. Drumming, chanting, or singing in these spaces could have heightened the emotional and spiritual impact of the ceremonies conducted there. This suggests a multi-sensory dimension to cave art, an early form of performance art that combines sight, sound, and possibly movement in a unified expression of cultural meaning. The global distribution of cave art, from the Llanmira caves in Spain to the Kakadu rock shelters in Australia, points to a shared human impulse that transcends geography, language, and even species. Evidence of symbolic behavior has been found not only among Homo sapiens, but also among Denisovans and Neanderthals, who left behind their own enigmatic markings. This widespread engagement with visual culture suggests that the roots of human creativity run deep in our evolutionary lineage. It supports the theory that the emergence of art was not a singular event confined to one creative explosion in Europe around 40,000 years ago, but rather a gradual and universal development that occurred wherever humans settled. This perspective encourages a more inclusive and multifaceted view of prehistory, recognizing that the capacity for imagination and expression is not the sole domain of any one culture or region. The preservation and study of cave art also carry profound ethical and philosophical implications. These images are not just scientific curiosities or tourist attractions. They are part of our collective human heritage, and their continued survival depends on responsible stewardship. Caves are incredibly fragile ecosystems, and even small changes in temperature, humidity, or air quality caused by human breath, lighting, or physical contact can irreparably damage the pigments and stone surfaces. This is why many sites are now closed to the public or only accessible through virtual replicas and digital reconstructions. While this limits direct access, it ensures that future generations can continue to study and learn from these ancient masterpieces. More importantly, it reminds us that cultural preservation is not just about conserving objects, but about maintaining a connection to our past, to the values and visions of those who came before us. In recent years, indigenous communities around the world have begun to reclaim these artworks as part of their ancestral heritage. In Australia, for instance, Aboriginal elders have worked with archaeologists to interpret ancient rock art through the lens of Dreamtime stories, traditional spiritual narratives that continue to guide cultural identity today. These collaborations are vital not only for enriching academic understanding, but for restoring the cultural continuity that colonial histories have disrupted. Similar efforts are underway in the Americas and Africa, where local knowledge is helping to decode symbols and recontextualize artifacts in ways that honor perspectives of descendant communities. This intersection of archaeology and indigenous knowledge represents a powerful model for how science and tradition can work hand in hand to uncover deeper truths. Ultimately, the story told by ancient cave art is not just about the past. It is about the enduring human need to communicate, to express, and to connect. These artworks are evidence that long before the invention of writing or the rise of cities, humans were already grappling with the fundamental questions of existence. Who are we? Where do we come from? What lies beyond the visible world? In their marks upon stone, early humans left behind more than images. They left messages of longing, wisdom, fear, and awe. They remind us that the urge to create is inseparable from the urge to understand. We look upon these ancient paintings. We do not merely see the outlines of animals or the impressions of hands. We see echoes of ourselves, our hopes, our struggles, our dreams. In that flickering torchlight, in the pigment on limestone, in the rhythmic patterns of stencils and lines, we encounter a mirror that reflects not just who we were, but who we still are. The artists of the caves are gone, their names and languages lost to time, but their visions remain, whispering across the millennia that even in the darkness there is light, even in silence there is song, and even in the stillness of stone there is life.